And it was disruptive. So you can see Gander, Newfoundland, and Halifax, two of the direct races. So all the folks coming in from Europe, they closed our borders when they did Scatena. So they get everybody down, they closed the borders, nobody else was coming in. So they all had to divert, and you can imagine all those 747s and 777s, you know, it looks like a parking lot. So the confusion that, you know, that was caused everywhere was just amazing, trying to figure out, you know, if now these planes aren't showing up when they're supposed to. And you go, so are they okay? Are they not okay? You know, trying to put all the pieces together when there's just so much going on was really our challenge of the day. Yeah, this is a quote I thought was great. You know, in a crisis you need people that can survive without structure or invent it as you go. And I think there were a lot of folks that day that were, you know, trying to make it up on the fly and trying to make this look like something that we had seen before. And that was about the only thing we could do, because we hadn't planned for it. This wasn't really, you know, in any of our thoughts. One of the things that comes up all the time is I was never given an order to shoot down an airliner. That can only come from the president at the time. And there wasn't enough, I don't believe, enough information for anybody to make that call prior to the second one hitting. We did, however, while the tires were still standing, again, that's my timeline, they called me up and said, hey, you need to be ready to shoot down the next hijack trap. And I was going to say, okay, Roger. And they said, I remember very vividly, because then they came and said, you have a problem with that, which really ticked me off. You know, because you go, at 20 years, you go, if I can do what I need to do, when they need me to do it, you know, it's a lot of wasted taxpayer money, and I'm the wrong guy who's sitting here right now. So the controller that asked me that really ticked me off. And it's like, yeah, don't worry, I'll do my job. So from that point on, we got back and landed. We went into round-the-clock operations, so 24/7 for about the next 2 years. All those sorties are called Noble Eagle. That's where that comes from. So they're all Noble Eagle sorties, and that's when we started going in. And immediately, as soon as I hit the ground, I went through maintenance debrief. I went through intel debrief, where I told them what I saw, what I knew, and they filled me in on everything else, because I only knew what was going on in New York. They got me caught up with what was going on everywhere. And then we went right into, you know, trying to figure out what's the schedules, how many jets can we get, and then start, you know, telling pilots, don't come in, I need you to sleep during the day so I can use you tonight. And we started, you know, doing manning caps in Boston, New York, Philly, DC, kind of around the clock for the next couple of years. So it was a pretty busy time after that. So that is all I have. Those are my recollection, and, you know, the things I was thinking about that day as, you know, as it progressed. Nothing you can prepare for. I know that the focus is service and leadership, you know, and I was talking with a bunch of folks yesterday, and I said, you know, to me, service is easy. If it's just raising your hand, you know, and saying, yeah, you know, I'll do it. And the more I thought about it, I said, you know, leadership's the same way. You know, it's about raising your hand and stepping up and doing what needs to be done. And it doesn't mean you have to be the person up front. It doesn't mean you have to be the loudest. You don't need the title. It's, you know, being a leader is being a leader at whatever you're doing. So the way I looked at it, you know, I had a lot of folks that were helping me that day. And I might have been the flight lead, but I had a lot of people helping me all along the way, and they were all leading, you know, at what they were doing. They were respectful, you know, they were professional, and they were courageous in some of their decisions. So that is all I have. Are there any questions? No? Okay, great. Yes, sir. It depends. I know that's a terrible answer. What we normally do is, and what we did for our intercepts that day, is we pull up next to the left side of the plane, so we'd only be 10 or 15 feet away from the cockpit. You can look in and see the captain. So you're looking, I can actually see their uniforms. And we got some signals that we passed to each other to make sure that everything was okay. And then other than that, we just, if there was a problem, we would drop back and just shadow them. So we'd call it out and tell folks, you know, where they're going, what they're doing. And then the call is not ours. You know, because a lot of people say, well, why wouldn't you do this? Or, you have to understand, it's not our plane. You You know, it's a $50 million plane, it's a taxpayer plane, and, you know, we just have it for an hour or two. You know, so when we're up there, we're following the orders, and that's why we have the authenticator. But I can tell you right now, if they give me an order to shoot down an airliner, I would have authenticated to make sure that it was coming from the right person and they had the proper authority. And I can tell you, I know in my heart of hearts, I would have authenticated again. I would, you know, it's one of those things where you go, you know, before you hammer down on something like that, I want to be absolutely, you know, absolutely clear on where we were. And you bring up a great point with Flight 93 in Shanksville. My buddy was in the right seat. I was in that pod. Lee Homer was a Academy grad also, and I had flown with him probably 100 times back and forth to London. So we were together. You know, a great guy. And people say, well, would you shoot down? Would you shoot him down? You go, or do you think? You know, there's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there. And you know, I talked to the F-16 flight lead, so my counterpart down in Washington, that got scrambled out of Langley, and he did the exact same thing I did. He set up a point defense over the Capitol, and we have a circle that we stay inside so that we can protect it. And if you think about it, Flight 93 was over 100 miles away from the Capitol. You would never take a fighter, leave your high value asset that you're protecting, go 100 miles away and leave that unprotected so anything else could happen to it. You just wouldn't do it. If they're a big enough threat, you let them come to you. So you can stay there protecting. So tactically, it wouldn't make any sense. So I've seen a lot of and heard a lot of folks, you know, with a big conspiracy, and you go, it just doesn't make sense. Tactically, we would never do it. And it just, you know, it just doesn't flow.
Colonel, was the no-fly order taking place over Denver and all major airports?
Yes, when they gave the, you mean the grounding? You know, yeah, they had to put a ground stop on nationwide, and then when it was get all the jets down, it was in national, you know, get them down quickly, and that created a tremendous amount of confusion. You have planes that are taking off, going to Florida, San Diego, you know, Washington, you know, Seattle, full of gas, taking off. They've been airborne for 10 minutes, and they're being told land immediately. And they go, I can't. I'm over max gross landing weight because I was planning on burning, you know, 100,000 pounds of fuel on the way over there. So what do you do? And then where do you want me to go? And why? You got me in times 100 planes that are, you're all being told the same thing. So it just generated a tremendous amount of confusion, and that's why we were intercepting so many planes, just because they were on the wrong frequency, they weren't sure where to go. You know, the controllers weren't sure if they were talking to them or not, or they were talking to another controller. So it was just a tremendous amount of confusion and misinformation that we were kind of sifting through for that first hour or two.
Your second radar image, the aircraft you see on the image, what are they?
Fighters or tankers. That's all it was. There was absolutely nothing in the air. So if you look at it, you can actually see each city. You know, you look and you go, okay, there's Atlanta, you know, there's DC, there's Philly. You can go right up and down and start picking up which cities had the caps on.
How many times did you refuel?
Yeah, that's early today too. You know, I can't remember. I can tell you that we had that, it was a KC-135, which was the type of tanker that we had scheduled for training that morning. So they came over to JFK. They gave us all their gas. I mean, so much so that they were out of Bangor, Maine. And so much so that they couldn't go back to Bangor. They didn't have enough gas to get back. So they went into McGuire, which is right there in New Jersey, which is probably 40 miles away from them. They just flew right, basically straight down and landed. So they gave us all their gas, and we were fortunate enough that there was a KC-10, which is an even larger tanker, that was just got back and dragging a bunch of A-10s across the ocean. So they had basically just come into U.S. airspace as my tanker was running out of gas. So my tanker went down to McGuire, and this other tanker shows up. I mean, it was the time couldn't have been any better for us. So we took all the gas off of one tanker and another. So my guess is we probably tanked 5 times each, or something like that. Any other questions?
Colonel Reed, a lot of us here are educators, and our job is to actually prepare our students to step up to the
You dance with who you brought. So there are leadership opportunities everywhere. People always ask me, because I do talk a lot and teach a lot of classes on leadership. And there are leadership opportunities everywhere. Folks say, well, I never get the chance. You always have a chance. I don't care whether it's coaching a kid's team, doing something with your church, volunteering for something in the schools. I mean, they're everywhere. And they don't have to be huge because they build on each other. So, what I would tell the kids is you don't know when these are going to happen. So you need to be preparing yourself every day. That's what I meant by you dance with who you brought. Whatever tools, whatever skills that you've learned or grown, if and when that happens, that's all you have to fall back on. I was fortunate that day having a lot of combat time, that I had been in scenarios before where there's obviously a lot of emotion, a lot of things going on, and I had done similar tactics in the past. So for me, I just made it look like something that was comfortable to me and that I thought would work. So it wasn't rocket science. It was, you try to make it something that you know. Yes, ma'am.
Colonel Duffy, would you tell us what your path was to become a fighter jet pilot? I mean, did you start at 5 years old thinking about flying a plane, or how did that work?
No, I was going to be a pro athlete. And then at about 5'11", I stopped growing. So I had to go to plan B. And I love basketball, and that was my thing, and it wasn't going to happen. I was kind of fortunate. I grew up right next to a naval air station, South Weymouth Naval Air Station, just south of Boston. And my dad used to take us out every year to watch the Blue Angels when they came in town. So starting at probably 8 or 9 years old, you're looking at, boy, that looks really cool. I think I'd like to try that. I was also fortunate enough that I'm the youngest of 5. My oldest brother has Downs. My next oldest brother went to the academy also. He's 8 years older than me. And he went and flew F-15s and eventually became an astronaut and went up on the shuttle 4 times. So, just so you know, so when people see me, they're like, oh, you're one of the Duffy boys. And then they say, oh, and I say, no, I'm the other one. I think seeing that, and then, our family didn't have a lot of means. I wouldn't say we were poor, we just didn't have a lot of money. I was rich in a lot of other ways. And the academy looked like a great way of going, and getting a chance to fly fighters, which I thought was going to be like a done deal. Had I known at 17 that the chances of me actually making it all the way to here were slim to none, I might have rethought it, but that's, youth and ignorance is okay. I just had a dream and I followed it, I guess. And it didn't happen the first time. I had to keep fighting. I didn't go right to an F-15. I went to a T-33 to McCord, to Tacoma, which was an old fighter. I mean, the plane with my name on it was 3 years older than me. That's kind of disheartening. But I just kept working at that, and again, tried to be the best at what I was doing, and that worked out, and I kind of got myself to the top of that, and then my next assignment was the F-15. So it didn't happen the first time, the first quick time through, but like Rose says, we're a little slow on the uptake, but when we get it. So that's kind of where that came from. But I would say, just if you get that dream, just chase it.
Colonel, you've shared your experience as a pilot at that point and your co-pilot that day. No one else would ever experience. You observed and witnessed something that no one else had the opportunity was there at the time. How is it that your family with 5 children, not knowing their ages, they dealt with this as well as you had hoped? Have they also received any type of assistance, guidance, as far as their father being the one to pilot that plane?
You mean my kids themselves? No, they. It's funny. Kids are funny. I came home and my 3 little ones were too young to really know. A lot of my 2 older ones were. And I guess they were like 12 and 11, something like that. And the little ones were, too little to really know what was going on. But I sat down with the 12 and 11-year-old and said, "Do you understand? This was probably 3 days later when I finally made it home." And I said, "Do you realize what happened?" And that, of course, they were bombarded with TV, at that point in time. And yeah, we got it. I said, you know what I did? And he said, yeah, we got it. And I said, you know, were you worried or upset or anything else? And only the way kids can do, they're like, no. Not at all. Dad's got it. And in their mind, that's okay. It's like, yeah, Dad's taking care of it. It's going to be all right. So, yeah, they were, it's funny, the way they look at it was, and my kids are that way today, even though they're quite a bit older. For the last 8 years, I stopped flying 8 years ago with the Guard, and I went to the reserves. And so the last 8 years, I've been a regional director for New England, dealing with disasters. So I also dealt from a national standpoint. I go to Washington, like for the Haiti earthquakes, and for the tsunamis in the Marianas, and the wildfires out here, and whatever it is, I was doing emergency management. So I was with FEMA, working as a DoD liaison with FEMA. So every time there was a disaster, I get called and I was there. So when the Boston Marathon bombing just happened, I was in New York working at my real job, and my kids, even though they knew I was retired and I was out of that, they just assumed I was going to go take care of it. So it's funny, even when the kids get older, like, yeah, Dad's got that. So they never had anything, but I don't think they ever needed it because their mind was in kind of a good place right away. For them, they slept all nights because Dad's got it. Which is, it's a great being a kid.
You have a great father.
Well, thank you very much, Colonel Duffy. These lessons are great, and they really apply to our roles as educators and parents. That successful responses are a lot of preparation and some imagination. That's what it takes, because most of the things we face every day are things we can put into some context. Occasionally, rarely, we see a situation that we don't have any context for, and that's where you use a little imagination and fall back on that training. And that's certainly what you did, Colonel Duffy, and I want to thank you for sharing your story with us and for being here for our remembrance of that day.
Thank you very much for having me.
I assume that people have individual questions?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you want to come up, I'll shut the mic off and we can just talk.
There was something that was actually
Hey, how you doing? Well, congrats.